Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at the Play Arts Kai variant Batman, Timeless Batman, Batman Timeless, whatever you want to call it. It's one of these Batman throughout the ages type of things. This is the Wild West version, which is probably the one I'm least looking forward to, and I have it now so I'm not looking forward to it, but you get what I'm saying. It's not really my cup of tea, but that said, it is a very, very well done figure. Very cool. If you are a fan of Westerns or Batman, then pick it up. I mean, obviously I'm not unhappy that I have it or anything. I love me some Batman. I'm just not really into the whole Western thing, so it wasn't, you know, my first choice, even though it's the first choice. Anyway, let's take a look at it. He stands roughly 10.5 inches tall to the top of his hat, which makes him, in centimeters, just shy of 27. He comes with this standard Play Arts Kai display stage. You guys know how that works, so I'm not going to get that out and show you. He comes with a decent batch of accessories. We have a fist hand for either side. We also have two style pose hands for either side, or batarang hands if you want to. But I would probably not use them for that. And here we can show you the detail in the sculpt. You see the little rivets and the different colored parts for the knuckles. Very nicely done, looks pretty cool. And then we have, this is more of a batarang or knife hand, right there. And then this one is definitely a grapnel gun hand. So that gave away some of the accessories. We do have a batarang. It's a little bit small, but it matches the ones on his chest, so that's pretty cool. Looks just like the ones that are in there. So you can put that in this hand. With a little bit of finagling, you can get it in there. And it works pretty well. It looks pretty good. I like that. We also have this, which is like a little knife. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be the blade and the handle is this part here or what, just because he's got them in here. And this looks to me like he's got knives in here, like you can pull them out, but then it's kind of backwards, so I'm not entirely sure if that's supposed to be the blade or the handle. It does look like it's sculpted like a blade, and so it would make sense for the blades to be sticking out, but then it looks like knife sheath with the blade in the sheath. I don't know, but that's what this is, and that's what he has on his arms. So you can decide what that's supposed to be. Looks cool either way. He does have the grapnel gun, which is cool because it looks like the old-timey revolver for the most part, which has some really nice detail painting on there. It looks cool. Only problem is, instead of making this a hard piece that was removable and then you could put it back in, it's really soft plastic. And the reason they did that is because in order for you to get it in the holster over here, you have to mush it, which is a little strange of a choice. You just push it through. And it fits in there and it looks good once it's in there, but why not just make this removable so you could push it in and then push the gun or push the claw back in the front? That seems like it makes more sense to me. But then again, this isn't going to break, and that could, so maybe that's why. It looks good once it's in. You'll see in the photos at the end. But, that's it for the grapnel gun. And then we have another kind of curious accessory, which is an axe. I'm not sure it really suits Batman, and the design's a little strange, I think, but it's still pretty cool. I don't know if it really even suits the Wild West theme, to be honest, but it looks pretty cool, so why not? What the heck? They're creating original ideas, so why not go all the way? So it has some nice sculpt work and then some shading, and then the handle is of course painted also. It is mostly soft plastic, which is a little strange. Maybe they did that just to keep the weight down, I don't know, but it's not so soft that it's really a problem. So that's it for accessories. Let's look at the figure. As far as sculpt and paint, we'll kind of do it all in one. As far as sculpt goes, loaded. Everything is sculpted on this guy. Every wrinkle, every button, every rivet, little cracks in the leather, everything is sculpted with great detail. And then the paint is done to go along with it. Loaded with rivets and silvers and golds, and you can see the little bullets on there and the larger bullets. His little suspender straps, the little paint details in there for all the shading. Everything is painted really, really well. His cape, which is sculpted to look all tattered and torn like he's been walking through maybe the desert or just a dry area, I don't know. But then it has also the paint on it to look like there's been sand brushing up against it and wearing it, and also changing the color. Looks super cool. You can see the leather part that looks like a bat up here on the shoulder part of his kind of cape shawl thingy, whatever you want to call that. You can see the variation in the browns for this shoulder holster thing here with the kind of straps and everything. that variation in the brown. Even though it's a very subtle variation, I appreciate that. I think that looks really cool. We have all kinds of variation in the grays and blackish blues and all of that, so that's nice. Lots of stitch work, just really packed full of detail. You can see the detail in the boots. I mean, I'm not a Western fan really at all. There's maybe 4 Western movies I like. I really like this figure. The only thing that really bugs me about it, the hips look a little wide from the front. Once he's not posed, they look a little wide. From the side, everything looks proportionate. Once he's posed, it looks okay. They do look a little thick, a little bit thick there. Not a huge deal, like I said, once it's posed, it's no problem. And then the knees are a little wonky, I'll show you those. But otherwise, oh my goodness, this figure looks so cool. Alright, let's go through the articulation. For the neck, I'm not 100% sure on all of it, just because there's a couple different layers and it's a little hard to get in there without risking damage, and I don't want to damage it. But the head itself is on a double ball peg. You can actually see that at the top of the neck, kind of. So you have really good range of motion for the head. And yeah, there's a gap, but you can usually kind of hide it with the collar, so it's not a problem. So you can move the head all around. The neck is on, I believe, another double ball peg, but it's pretty stiff and you can't really get in there. I think it's a double, it might be a single ball peg for the neck. Cool thing about it though is this inner collar is completely movable. It's soft plastic, so that'll hide the neck also. And you can see there's lots of nice paint details in there with the little straps. This outer collar, also really soft plastic and movable. So if you move the head, you can rotate the collar around. Very handy for posing. Looks really cool. Hides the joints. I really appreciate that. This side, just soft flap, so they didn't really have to do anything to it. This side, bigger flap, not so soft. They hinged it, so you can still move the arm underneath. The 2 shoulders have the same articulation, even though they have slightly different sculpts. So I can just show you on this side. He's got that, well, maybe this side's easier. He's got that new type of articulation where it's a big ball hinge connected to kind of like a tab, which functionally it works. I mean, you get the range of motion that you want. Personally, and I know they had some quality control issues and other various problems with it, I still prefer the butterfly joint just because you don't end up with this big cavity. Now, like I said, it's still functional. You can get the butterfly by rotating on that peg where the joint is connected actually, so that technically gives you your butterfly and it'll work. But you end up with the big gap, so I don't particularly care for that. Some people like it more. That's more of a judgment call, a personal judgment call, rather than an objective thing. So I can't say it's a bad thing. Personally, I prefer the butterfly. So anyway, we have the ratchet that gives us the up and down motion then, which he has pretty good range. It's not huge, but it's good enough. And then, like I said, that's hinged, so no big deal there. And then this side, other than the sculpt, because it's a little thicker getting in the way, you have the same range of motion there. So then, just like the ball hinge pegs into the torso for the swivel, pegs into the arm for a rotation for the shoulder itself, but then we also get a bicep swivel. So you really shouldn't have any trouble posing this guy. Other than a little bit of variation in the shading from that shoulder to the bicep area, it's a seamless sculpt. It looks really nice. And this side, it's even better because this armor piece hides it. So we get really nice articulation. The elbows are sculpted so that when the arms are straight, you can't see the joint from the side or the back really, you just see a little bit in the front. Then when they do give us 90 degrees. I wish it was a little bit more, but it's not too bad. I think that's good enough. That one's a little bit better just because the wrinkles are a little different. Could be better, you know, a little bit more range of motion, but it's definitely not bad. And then the wrists are the standard ball hinge wrists. They'll swivel in the forearm and in the hand and have the ratchet, so that's pretty good. The torso, I believe it's a double ball peg. I suppose it could technically be a single, but it feels to me like a double. I don't know, actually it kind of feels like a single, but it might just be stuck. Either way, you can lean from side to side. This is all soft, by the way, so you don't have to really worry about it. It's pretty seamless all the way around too, just due to the design of it. So you can rotate it, you can see how soft it is. Lean it back, doesn't go back too far. Goes forward probably far enough, but it's kind of back heavy due to the cape, so not going to get the best range of motion out of that upper joint, mostly just this. Okay, so we need to talk about the cape. So the cape on this guy, this part isn't hinged like we've seen on some of the other Batman figures that we've gotten. It's just fairly soft, and the cape's capes, plural, because there's 2 pieces. They connect fairly low, so they're going to still have the articulation that you want. And they have enough overlap that you can spread them out pretty far without having a gap. So you can keep them narrow if you want them narrow, like this, and that works fine, or spread them out and get that really swooshy effect, and it looks good. And so the articulation for them is just your standard ball hinge that if you guys have purchased or seen any of these figures before, you know what this is like. So we get our ball hinge, which allows us to move the pieces up like this. You can make it nice and windswept or swing it to the side like that. Whatever you want to do, you can pretty much move the cape around and the ratchet holds it in place. So it's really nicely done. Super happy with it. I like the cape on this guy quite a lot. The lower joint is just the standard single ball peg going into the torso, so that can lean various ways, but the hips do go in there, so it's limited based on the hips. You should be able to get pretty decent range because they hollowed it out. You know, they hollowed it out a good bit. Most of the time though, unless you're really bringing them all the way to the side like that, you're not going to see those gaps. You know, just if you're posing them a little bit by leaning them, well, I don't know. I guess it's not, you know, it goes either way. You either get the range of motion and the gaps, or you don't get the range of motion and no gaps. So it's really up to you. It depends also where the hips are. So onto the hips, we have those ratcheted ball hinges that we're familiar with. They ratchet forward. All of this stuff is soft, so you can bring the leg all the way forward. You do get a little bit of a droopy butt back here once you bring the leg forward. That's kind of common on these guys. It's not great, but I don't know why you would pose him in such a way that you have to look at that weird angle anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Ratchets out to the side also. Not too bad range of motion, especially if you bring that torso to the side, you can get even more out of the leg. So pretty good there. And then of course we have our thigh swivel around there, which works really well. So other than the hips being a little bulky, not too bad. Now the knees look good when the legs are fully straight, but they don't look so great like this because they went with smaller joints with a big knee piece, so there's kind of this big gap in each one. And once you get it posed, it kind of disappears, so it's not a huge deal. But I don't know. I don't know. Could be better, I think. If the joints themselves were bigger, they'd fill in the gap more. It's definitely better than the old play art, so I'm happy about that. Good range of motion. Doesn't look too bad, but I did think they could have probably done a little bit better as far as the looks go and the engineering. And then for the ankles, we have our standard ball hinge swivels in the shin and in the foot, so you can get your ankle rocker out of that by just rotating that around. And you should be able to pose them pretty much however you want to. Loads of detail again. Wanted to point out, even the spurs, the little voids in the spurs are actually voids. Looks super nice. So much detail in this guy, even for not being a fan of Westerns. I'm happy to have him in the collection. It's going to be a really nice set, I think, once I have all the other Batmans, like the, what was it, the Spartan one, and the Steampunk, and the Bushido, which is the Japanese one, the Samurai one. Super pumped. These guys look great. Can't wait to get him posed. One thing I forgot to mention, which I should mention, he's got a little hook back here, right behind the holster, and he also has one up here. That is for his axe. They show it going kind of like this. I would prefer to personally do it like this, which you can do however you want to, just so that he can reach up and grab the handle. Just slide it in there however you want to. Mine came unglued when I did it the first time, so I just glued it back in. It's a very tiny tab that holds it in place, but luckily you can just glue it back and just be careful. And also there's a little bit of a flat right there, so you can get it in there a little easier. Put it in like that, and then slide it around, and you should be okay. Be careful. I'm not going to do any more right now for the video because I'll probably break it since I just glued it like 10 minutes ago. But it's a really, really cool figure. If you are a Batman fan, then you might want to consider getting it. If you are a Western fan, then you might want to consider getting it. If you just like cool figures, then you might want to consider getting it. If you don't like any of those things, then this isn't for you, because it is all of those things. It's a cool cowboy Batman. Can't really say much more about that. I do recommend it if you like those things. And I'm really happy I have it, to be completely honest. I was worried, but I do like it. And the face isn't glossy. There's nice shading. I don't know. I think it works. I like it. I suppose this is one of those things where it's going to be really subjective to individual tastes, but I like it. I don't know when BBTS will be getting theirs, and it shouldn't be too long from now. So if you do want to get one, you should be able to click that link in the description below and get yourself a pre-order for this Play Arts Kai Timeless Batman Wild West version. Very cool figure. I'll pose him here at the end so you can see him in action, and then make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.